During the 1950s, when the fishing industry was at its height, many Scandinavians continued to settle in the town. One family who arrived here from Denmark were the Christiansens, Olga, his wife Greta, and their 2 children. Kurt was 5 years old when he arrived in Grimsby from Denmark. His father was a trawler skipper on seine netters, a technique developed by the Danes.
There was a trawler-owning family, Sir Basil Parks had a company called Boston Deep Sea Fisheries in Hull, and he built 2 seine netters, which is a type of trawler. He built 2 new ones for his daughter as a wedding present, and my father was asked to skipper those from new, maiden voyage, and then that's when we came across here in '57. Stayed in Hull for 3 years. And at that time, the type of fishing they were doing, my father was always being diverted to Grimsby because Grimsby was used to dealing with a broader range of fish from different areas like North Sea, Faroe Bank, Iceland, Norway coast, whereas Hull was always Icelandic. And in them days, when my father was told to land in Grimsby, he didn't really like it, not because he didn't like Grimsby, but because it used to take him a full day to get home with a train and a bus and a ferry, and it was quite involved. So, like I said, 3 years after, so I think it was in 59 or maybe 59, we moved to Grimsby.
On leaving school at 15, he worked as an errand boy on the docks with aspirations to be a fisherman like his father. However, he ended up as an auctioneer after the family deterred him from a life of fishing. But Grimsby has changed, and Kurt has moved with those changes.
Not only Grimsby had one of the biggest fleets in the world. I mean, there's 500 ships working out of Grimsby, ranging all the way from my father's class of ship, seine netters, which were sort of 50, 60, 65 feet, and then going up to the bigger trawlers and the factory trawlers, which were up to 200 foot long, and we used to fish globally. Every morning when I went on the auction, there was fish from Iceland, Faroe, our own ships, North Sea. And now we've got 9 ships left, and I think out of those there's probably 3 or 4 like ours. We've got 2. We look after one vessel, the Rachel S, for Nigel Stead Fishing, and we've got our own vessel, Sorrento, which is a joint venture between Kurt Fish Sales and Nigel Stead Fishing. But most of the time we're on standby duties and fishing liaison, where we stood around oil rigs or wind farms, or guarding a fibre optic cable. Fish is still a very vital part of Grimsby. We had a good year last year, a lot of fish out of Ireland. So I still very much keep my fish company, although the UK fleet is limited in what we're allowed to catch, even though we know the North Sea is full of fish. I mean, it's absolutely full of fish, but we're not allowed to touch it. But fish is being supplied from elsewhere, and we're involved in that. And Grimsby, we still turn over a billion or 1.2 billion pounds. 80-85% of any fish you see in a supermarket, all types, will have come through Grimsby. So it's still a big part of the industry, and it's I've been in fishing all my life. You can't just walk away from that.
Today he's been instrumental in bringing the wind farm industry to the Humber region and has branched out into support services.
The way I look at it is that the Danes are coming across here. They're investing tens of millions, hundreds of millions in my town. And the more we can get in here and the more work we can create in this town, the more careers these people want to create for us and train us to do, the better. You can see when, the big furore about, Toyota going into the Midlands and up north and so on. As far as I'm concerned, you get the Danes investing here. They're not investing here to bring Danes over here. That's too expensive. They're investing to get locals into it to do it. And that seems like a good idea to me, because the fishing industry has been decimated through, another story, but it's been decimated through mismanagement by politics and Brussels. And I think, to get these people in now into this port, we need them here. We want them here, and it's my job to make them as welcome and make it as easy for them as I can, because every time a new company comes, that there is going to be another 100 or 200 jobs created in Grimsby. It's nice.
At heart, he says he's as English as fish and chips. His services have been recognised twice by the Danish royal family, and he's received knighthoods as proof.
Grimsby used to have a vice-consulate here, which hasn't got as much power as a consulate has, and we were doing some work at the time with the Danish Embassy and the NFFO, the National Federation of Fishermen's Organisation, that's based in Grimsby. And I arranged a few meetings for him just because of the Danes that was landing to me. Oh, like everybody does, they always say, if you're going to Grimsby, see Kurt. And I arranged this. And then one time he came down and said, this was a fishery attaché at the embassy. Oh, I'd like to come and see you. And I said, oh, do you want to meet? So, no, I want to meet you. And that's when they came up and said, the previous vice-consul was a solicitor, Brown. Anyway, they asked me politely, if asked, would you accept the post of honorary Danish vice-consul for Southumberside and Lincolnshire? I was a bit taken aback, but I thought about it. And it's not an onerous task. If it gets too deep, bring the embassy. Anyway, they came down and they checked me out, and I sort of struck a deal with them because I said, well, how long's the job for? Is it a year or 2 years? And they went, no, it's till you're 70. So I said to them, well, if you guarantee I reach 70, then I'll do the job. And they laughed and said, not with your lifestyle. They wouldn't. Anyway, I took it on and I found it very, very interesting. There's some very sad things that I've had to deal with, death and so on, getting people sent home. And there's some really exciting stuff and interesting stuff. And then after 8 year or 9 year, I think it was, I got an honorary knighthood from the Danes, which surprised me, which was very, very nice. And my mum thought that put me second in line to the throne of Denmark, which I had to explain that it didn't. And then, lo and behold, shortly after that, I got another knighthood. That was 8 years after that, I think it was, when I was made Knight First Class at the Order of Denmark. Now that was a big deal, that one. And I felt that there was, I didn't think I'd done anything to deserve it, but they begged to differ, and I got it, and I'm very, very pleased I am too. It's nice.
Some things don't change, and the family still continue some Danish traditions as a nod to the homeland.
So we have a Danish Christmas on Christmas Eve, where we have goose and pork and red cabbage, and we open a load of presents. But then obviously, I'm English, so we've got to have Christmas Day as well. So we have turkey and all the rest of it, and then Boxing Day, we're more or less laying the settee all day. But that was one thing that I just felt when unfortunately after my dad died, we always had, and it is quite useful because having 2 Christmases, there's never an argument about where do your children go on Christmas Day. They're around at their in-laws or whatever. So we have Christmas Eve, and that is a family affair. That is just so family. I love it. And Connie, my little granddaughter, thinks it's great because she gets 2 lots of presents. And it is nice. It's just that's one nod to home. We had a choice a few years ago after my mum died as well that was keeping 2 on, and I said to the boys, we've got to drop one of them. There's Christmas got to go. Which one shall it be? Is it going to be a Danish one, an English one? And of course they did the same as I did. We said, we've got to keep the Danish one, because they was like me when I was younger. Growing up, when I was courting my wife Carol, Christmas Day you're round at their house, Christmas Eve you're at mine. We way to a man's house for his tummy and that. So we always keep the 2. That is one nod that we do. The rest of it, I'm not too involved in the midsummer bit and so on. But no, there are nods there. You open my fridge and there's quite a bit of Danish type food in there, which is what I've grown up with. But so it is. If you open my son's fridges as well, there's bits there that you go, that you remember. Rye bread and herring and so on. So there are bits there that you can't cross out, But there's not that much difference in the food in the 2 countries. But definitely, if there's anything, Christmas.